Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 610 through 612. Fists collide, a battle of two vice admirals. A small dragon, Momonosuke, appears. And Momonosuke? A deadly fight in a blizzard. The Straw Hats versus the Snow Woman. In these episodes, our friends are still in this damn lab, and we get to see a bunch of flashbacks regarding how everybody got here. And I really appreciate that Cesar actually is able to behave as if he is a sane and decent person, because the reason why folks fell for everything makes a lot more sense now. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you I'm Natasha. Thank you very much to Florian for commissioning this episode. Guys, I swear to God, my brain lately. I do this intro so often, and yet here I am, fucking it up. These episodes, first things first, it turns out that the dragon everybody was beating the shit out of isn't actually the child. So thank God for that. I just want to mention that right out of the gate. I really thought, but also this dragon is voiced by the same voice actress who does Luffy's voice. And I just don't think that was a great call, you guys. Like, I'm curious how you all feel about it, but personally, she does her best to make them both sound distinct, like as much as she can. But I really found myself getting a little bit mixed up sometimes. I feel like the moment that they are first introduced to each other was probably the worst because they sound the most similar at that point. But I just don't really know why they decided to use the same voice actress. Like, it may make a little bit more sense later on. Perhaps there's going to be a section of the story where Luffy isn't around the dragon as much and it's mostly other actors, or other characters. But like from where I'm at right now, it just seems really like you would pick anybody but Luffy because he is spending so much time with this character. Why would you set it up this way? So, like I said, this may turn out later on to have some reasoning behind it that I'm not able to see yet. And that's perfectly fine. But I did want to share how I felt about it because I can't be the only one. I assume that in the subversion, this is not an issue because they are two completely different voice actors. Although I'm assuming that with no evidence. I may be totally wrong, actually. But I just the decision making there feels strange, and I don't really get it right now. So okay, let's jump into Monet and her snow powers, who steps in at the end of the last episode to stop the children from escaping and to stop Mocha from, as she is putting it, Monet, she's like, stop hoarding all the candy for yourself. You're really greedy. Make sure to share. And it's so funny to me that at this point, Monet is trying to keep up this pretense that actually I'm doing this for your own good. Like, I'm still pretending to be your friend. Uh, I really feel like that ship has sailed. Like, is that just me? I just give it up. Monet. Everybody knows what's happening here. It's time to just let it go, girl. I admire your tenacity in wanting to continue this farce, but and maybe if it was just the children here, even that might feel a little bit more understandable. But where I'm coming from right now, it just seemed like we're already in the midst of rescuing these kids, and you see the other straw hats here, and that one of them knows the score and is keeping the candy away from them. She's not able to, like, you can't. Oh my God. I was about to say, you can't keep snowing them. I swear to God, you guys, I didn't mean to. I really didn't. That was an accident. Please don't get mad at me. I can practically hear people booing from here. Look, I I'm very sorry, but also I stand by it and I regret nothing. Um so we wind up getting this fight, and it takes a while to get here. But eventually, what Nami winds up doing is using this, like, I think she just calls it a heat egg, to burn through Monet. And it's not like it does any real permanent damage, which was disappointing. I didn't think it would. It doesn't seem like Logia types really sustain damage. I'm I'm probably wrong about that generalization, but in this case anyway, she is able to recover quite quickly, and it's just basically that they bought enough time to, like, get out of the room, but that's about it. So, uh let's see. Robin says, "Go find some sea prism stone handcuffs. I will handle the children." And she says, "Luffy asked me to find some." So this really, I thought, guys, that whatever Robin was up to, by the time we next saw her, her mission would be completed. Imagine my surprise when it turns out that she still hasn't done the thing and is actually requesting help with completing it. And this isn't me trying to, like, dunk on her exactly. It's just that normally the way this sort of narrative works is that you give the audience a hint that something else is going on, that there is some kind of other plan in play. The audience is meant to kind of, in the excitement of the rest of the plot, forget that that is happening. And then you suddenly come back in, like, the crucial moment with this completed mission that saves the day. And it winds up being like the clutch thing that made all the difference and got everybody out alive. So it was very funny to me in a way that we just don't do that at all here, and that she is just asking for help on doing the thing that she was assigned, essentially handing it off to someone else. So Usopp and Brook take off to get those, and the samurai goes with them because he is determined to find his son. So this leaves Robin, Nami, Zoro, and Chopper here in this room going up against Mocha. I really must protest again the fact that Mocha's tick is to lick her lips. It's so creepy. It's, like, actually great, that because I like that it makes her a little bit creepier. It adds something to her character that I think she might be kind of flat without. So I don't actually have an issue with it, but it is very off-putting. I was truly surprised how such a small thing could make me just be like, ugh, but truly hated it. Um, so then we jump over to Smoker, and he is, this is so funny to me. I loved this so much. He's in this room. He has caught up with Virgo, and he looks around at all of the tanks of this, like, glowing green liquid. And then he looks at Virgo and says, "What's going on? Those look mighty ominous." And Virgo just says, "They are, but they're none of your concern." Y'all, I don't know why the fact that a character straight up replies, "Oh, they are ominous," was so funny to me. But I would like, if anything, I would have expected him to ignore that part of the statement and only say, "It's none of your business." But the fact that he went ahead and responded with, like, "Oh, yeah, you should be worried," except he doesn't say it that way. He doesn't say it like a threat. He says it like, "Oh, yeah, these things, they are ominous," which something about that in particular, that delivery is really hilarious to me. And he is like, Law is over in the corner and he is fucked up, you guys. This man is so busted. And he's yelling up to Virgo, "I'm not giving up. I'm your opponent, you bastard." Virgo just winds up squeezing his heart again. I have to assume there is some reasoning behind the way that he keeps kind of like trying to get Virgo's attention. Maybe he's trying to give Smoker an advantage by distracting Virgo, but you know the man literally is holding your heart in his hand. How do you think you're going to be able to like one up this guy? I just I kept watching it like thinking, did he drop his heart? Why is he acting as if this is something that he can negotiate? And no, it's just just for future reference, everybody, I am personally of the opinion that if someone is actually holding your literal heart in their hand, you maybe just want to back off. And you lost. I think you've lost at that point ahead of time. I'm so sorry. I don't like to break this news to you, Law, but that's how it is. But yeah, Law basically squeezes it, not even just to like do anything, just to shut Law up. He says to sit there and be quiet until I'm ready to deal with you. Um, so Smoker then starts talking to, is it, oh yeah, to Virgo. And I kind of enjoyed the tack he takes here, because instead of trying to be like, "I can't believe that you're doing this," all of the sort of appeals to his actual morality, whether that exists or not, what he appeals to is how saddened all of the soldiers are going to be when they find out that Virgo is a traitor. Which, like, I know Virgo doesn't give a shit about, because Virgo thinks, as we have heard him say, that basically all of the Marines are like brainless meatheads who don't know what the fuck is going on most of the time and are too stupid to live. But it, like, coming at it from that standpoint, when you're looking at it through Smoker's eyes, kind of makes sense, because he is like assuming that there is still some affection for his subordinates in Virgo's heart. And I think that's kind of adorable. Um in my opinion, that kind of just shows us who Smoker is, because he values the respect of his own men enough that this might. I think that we tend to use arguments on other people that would work on us, right? You approach things in a way that sounds convincing to you, of course. So this feels to me like Smoker kind of sharing something about himself inadvertently. Um, so also, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah. So he says, if they, especially if they learn you're one of Joker's dogs, they're going to be uh really upset. And of course, Virgo has to be like, well, they already know. They found out moments ago. This is when Smoker attacks Virgo, and Virgo defends with this bamboo cane. Now, there has been nobody in the chats on these crowdcasts as of late. I think that Florian has been kind of in and out. So, I am super apologetic if this turns out to be something that you guys have indeed brought up or that happened in previous episodes that I missed somehow. But I don't know how I missed it. I had been saying, what's the deal with calling him like bamboo, like demon bamboo, I think? And I feel like this might be the first time that we see this weapon from him. Because, like, if I'm not mistaken, he really doesn't have to fight. Well, no, because mm, he uses his like finger pistols mostly with the Marines. I'm trying to remember if he uses this with them. I'm pretty sure he doesn't use it on Law because there's no need because he has Law's heart. So what's the point of actually getting into a fight here, right? Like I think that's it. So anyway, he says to Smoker, I'm sorry it had to end this way, but now that you know my secret, I must kill you. He says this, and then he sort of like judders forward in this really bizarre, and I don't know if that is supposed to be shave, that movement, if it's supposed to be his use of hockey, or if shave is a hockey movement, perhaps. But all of a sudden, he is directly in front of Smoker, and Smoker doesn't seem ready for this at all. But he blows through his bamboo, and it seems to create like a sort of bazooka that shoots fire. I really thought Smoker was out of it already. I thought he was done. Not so. Bitch is in the air behind this man, and he does a sort of like Matrix style backbend here. And the fight actually between the two of them is pretty fun because we're dealing with this like hulking brute type versus a Logia type. And the brute has hockey. So we've got a couple of different approaches here. And I was very surprised at the fact that Smoker is able to knock him down at all. Um, I just, he stands up and he's got some blood pouring down his head. And he touches it in a way that seems to like indicate to me he didn't expect to bleed. He really just didn't think that this was going to, that he was going to get got at all. And good for you, Smoker, on drawing some blood on this guy. Whether or not you're actually able to beat him is a whole other question. But as of right now, I'm feeling kind of impressed with you, sir, because I really thought that fucking shave plus, what do you call it? I keep using the word bazooka, but like that's the best I can come up with. That was a pretty fierce attack, in my opinion. So we go back to Sanji, who's with a bunch of the Marines and with Tashigi. And they all begin to collect the injured and run. They got to get out of here. Of course, Sanji with his hard eyes. We've got to protect Tashigi, the lovely lady. The fact that she is yelling at her men not to agree with Sanji because he is our enemy because he's a filthy pirate. Tashigi, babe, this man has saved your ass. Okay? Granted, Vergo took off, so it's not like Sanji actually beat him. But he distracted the guy enough that he wasn't continuing to attack your men. And then he got distracted even more and took off. I would call this a win, and I would be quite grateful if I were you to Sanji. So the fact that she is still holding on to this, like, well, you are a pirate, therefore you are our enemy and evil. Girl, this is played out. Get with the program, sweetie. This is like you are very you're very 2000 and late. I know that that is the silliest thing, but I'm going to say it because I think she's acting as silly and she deserves it. That's all there is to it. Um, and all of the men are like hyping up uh Sanji. It's such a weird moment. I don't know what we're doing here. I feel like it's meant to be sort of reminiscent of the cross dressers on the island that Sanji had been on, but the Marines are yelling at Sanji like, "Gotta admit, you looked so cool fighting Vergo," it made my heart skip a beat. That was pretty sexy, if you ask me. And what are you, why are we saying it like this? This is not the way these characters would ever compliment him if this were set up in a different way. I have to assume this is all meant to just kind of make Sanji in particular uncomfortable, which is just like, it's just problematic, you know? I just really don't like it. Um, so at this point, the fire that's happened causes an explosion. There's a hole in the wall now, and so this fog gas is coming through, and they have to really begin to pick up the pace. Unfortunately, not all of our guys are getting out of here because the gas is moving really, really quickly. I felt bad because these dudes really thought that they were out of harm's way. And I maintain they will be fine. We'll absolutely be able to like make them human again. This thing will be something it's possible to reverse. But this the expression on their faces when they realize that they're still not out of the woods yet after all of this. I was like, "Oh, these poor dudes." Um so he turns around and he's going to like help deal with the guys who are kind of falling behind, and he sends Tashigi on ahead. We then go to Caesar, and he's like, "Oh, sweet. These idiots fucked things up so bad that they brought Land of the Dead into the building for me, and I didn't even have to fucking do anything." So he says, close gates C and D and keep R open. I can't have them getting lost, so we'll lure them to the building's first floor. They're looking for gate R66, and the layout of this lab is confusing. There's something about the way he says that that's funny to me. We'll just have to guide them there. And we jump from there over to Luffy, and he is in the C building, and this is when he meets the dragon. It's such a weird encounter. Reminder, the way that this happened is that the last time he was on screen, he was fighting Monet. He punches through the floor to get away from her. And because she keeps making these like igloos basically above his head that he has to punch up through. And because he goes downward, she basically is like, "Oh, all right, well, he killed himself for me. I don't have to worry about it anymore. I'm going to take off and go deal with some bigger fish that I have to fry." And we like, I can't emphasize enough what a silly thing that is to do anyway. You guys know the principle of walking away from an enemy who isn't actually dead and assuming they're dead is always silly. But in this particular case, she knows how resourceful and impressive these people are. She has seen the way the Straw Hats work, and she is still not taking this seriously enough at all. And, you know, you get what you get, you dumb bitch, because this is just lazy. She basically, it feels like to me, it was like, oh, he went all the way downstairs. And not like just like downstairs one. He went like 6 flights down. What a pain. I just don't want to do it. So I'm not going to do it. Ugh, annoying. Like, you know, that's the vibe for me. And I just, girl, you literally have wings. Like, you could just fly down there. What is the matter with you? It's weak. It's weak sauce. I am not impressed. Um, so this is where he runs into this weird little dragon that turns out to be the samurai's son. And I'm just going to be honest, you guys. I don't know. I think what they're trying to do here is just basically have the son have the same overly formal, self serious personality as his father. And I understand that, but I think that this is the kind of performance that maybe works better in the sub when you have like the real understanding of the sort of energy they're meant to project, because I don't feel like the dub is quite getting it. And it makes this kid, I think he is meant to be seen as a weirdo, you know. He's got the same issue where he like denies things for no reason the same way his dad does, just to like save face. And to save face in a way that nobody cares, actually. You know, this saving face is not materially changing anybody's opinion of you. In fact, everybody can see right through it. So you keep insisting on like, oh, well, I'm not upset. And it's just like, who cares? But the way that the samurai behaves, he tends to be much more like well, you know what? I was going to say something, but I'm realizing as I say it that that's not exactly true. I was going to say that his son seems a lot more off-putting to other people. But then I had to step back and remember that the samurai was like really rude to the Straw Hats, to the point that later on, Sanji feels the need to point it out to him and be like, "Do you remember being a massive asshole to us? Because I fucking Pepperidge Farm remembers." Um, so yeah, maybe he is imitating his father more closely than I was sort of thinking he is. But overall, I just found this kid to be so off-putting in so many different little weird ways that I and also the fact that this is so incredibly petty. I realize that. Forgive me. But they made this dragon like very close to flesh tone, and that makes him less cute by like a large margin for me. If he had also changed colors significantly and been green, blue, purple, anything, that would have been something. But this dragon really looks too close to an earthworm for comfort, and I don't like it. So let me have this very interesting thing, uh, where the men who are working underneath Caesar's telling all of his men, like, I've got Joker on my time and now on my side. And now I have the opportunity to kill all of these people in the ideal manner. And these dudes say, Master, we're awaiting orders, ready for combat. Why have you summoned us here to the command room? This is Vegapunk's room. Wasn't he responsible for what happened years ago? We've got a score to settle with him too. And this dude is just like, we're sitting on our asses. We should be fighting. And we get a great bit where Caesar turns around and says, "You gentlemen are my backup plan. You're the best soldiers I have, so I cannot risk losing you." Guys, I am so delighted by how often Caesar is shown to actually be good at the actual tricking people part. You know that I have no issue with our goofy villains like Buggy the Clown, who always accidentally says the wrong thing right in front of his men, and they are apparently too dense to really like pick up on it. But you can only do that so much. And between this and a later the later bit where we see the way that he brought the children in and pretended that he lost his own child to this alleged disease that they all have, I just really understood why these children believed him and took his word for it. Now granted, this is all setting aside the fact that Caesar looks like a fucking maniac, but this is One Piece world, and everybody looks like a fucking maniac. Like, it's just, it's barely even worth remarking on after a certain point. So I'm not mad at these kids for just setting aside his appearance, because you've got a lot of real weirdos in this universe that are fluttering around. So I'm not blaming these kids for that one little bit. And yeah, with for me, it's just like often kind of the sticking point when somebody has apparently like tricked a bunch of folks into believing something. I just will be like, how did you ever buy that story coming out of that man's mouth? And here, I definitely get it. I, well, I say I get it might be too strong, but it's much, much more understandable and believable. And that's really all I have ever asked. So he says, now allow me to explain my plan to all of you. Once the gates to C and D have been closed, the only open routes through the laboratory will lead to the first floor of Building R, which is directly beneath us. The Straw Hats, G5, the children, it doesn't matter whether they're friend or foe, all the survivors will be forced into that room. The first floor has external vents which can bring in outside air. In other words, we'll be able to fill the room with Land of the Dead and there will be no way for them to escape. All of them will be caught in a giant gas chamber and they will all die. And we'll be broadcasting it to my shadow brokers who can witness the slaughter. Then they'll respect me, they'll know my greatness. And he says all of this and doesn't notice until a moment passes that his men are staring at him open mouthed and sweating and looking really unhappy. And one of them is like, Caesar, I hate to ask this. I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, did you create that poison gas? And he says, yes, I did. And they look at each other, and another one speaks up and is like, okay, well, so that seems a lot like Vegapunk's gas, the one from that accident 4 years ago. And the thing is, Master, it freaks us out. And Caesar is truly like, wait, what? What do you mean? And he gets this expression on his face that is hilarious to me. Um, he just looks like it's not even like he's definitely angry, but it's more disgruntled. You know, it's like the sort of energy of like, you guys just don't appreciate what I'm doing, you know? And he begins like this whimpering and he says, damn it. Just allow me to explain everything, please. And he's got fucking tears in his eyes. That day still haunts me. How I tried to stop the mad scientist. No! What if this dangerous weapon exploded? I said. Just think of all the innocent people who would be killed. Please, Vegapunk, don't do this. Tears pouring down his face, you guys. But there was no stopping him, and now he's the head of the Navy Science Division and widely considered the world's greatest scientist. It's not fair. It should have been me. I cannot accept it. How could someone so heartless come to be praised as the best of all? After what he's done, does he still deserve to be called the greatest? I mean, it is so amazing for this man in this gas cloak with his maniac smile and the words gas gas on his front to be talking about how some other guy was a terrible mad scientist. Truly wild shit. And they buy it. They fucking believe it. And this is one of those sort of phenomenons that happens with people where we decide that we want to like somebody and so we will kind of let them tell us whatever. And I'm not trying to be mean because I do this too. This is not me like indicting other people and acting like I'm so much smarter, excuse me, so much smarter than you all. I don't get tricked by this kind of okey doke. I do. I do, and I know that. And I'm not proud of that. But it is a fact that you can be predisposed to like trust somebody's word, so that even as what they tell you begins to really transcend past believability, you have almost gotten to a point where you've invested so much in believing in them in the past that now it sort of seems like, well, I can't stop now. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know. And maybe that is something that, like, I won't say maybe that's something that only I do, because I don't believe that for a second. But I'm not sure how many of you have really kind of caught yourself in those sort of situations. The way that this tends to happen usually is when you are in a romantic relationship. Especially if somebody has is being dishonest with you and you have your suspicions about it, but you are so entrenched in some other way in that relationship that you don't feel there's a reasonable way out. And if there is, it's something that's really high effort, and deciding to push that button is going to be a major source of chaos in your life. And unfortunately, but understandably, we want to trust the people that we have already invested time and energy in. This is what's called the sunk cost fallacy. And it's often talked about in this sort of like tone of voice of like, oh, yeah, that, as if people who fall prey to that are fools. But it's just like the way our minds work. It's not a flaw to want to believe in the people that you have chosen to trust and build a life with. And I don't blame people for that at all. I just feel sad because some folks are just really good at exploiting that. And anyway, I'm sorry. I just went off onto like way too serious a bent here. But anyway, that's what I feel is happening, is that these guys are in this place now where they have just invested too fucking much, and this man has helped them. And I'm putting that very much in quotes. They think he has helped. I don't really believe it. Not the way they like. How much is it helping to give you a new set of legs and like assist with rebuilding your body if you are just going to be used for like cannon fodder and medical experimentation later? I don't consider that a favor, but clearly these dudes are in a different headspace. um so yeah, this these guys are all just like, yeah, yeah, you're gonna bring peace and unity, and they begin like chanting to the master. And then we get the actual flashback where there is some marine who is yelling at Caesar to stop it, as Caesar is combining these chemicals and this like purple gas that is clearly the beginnings of, what is it that he keeps calling it? um oh my god, I forgot already, but with Smiley, basically. He says, the Navy wants to kill as many pirates as they possibly can. I'm simply creating a new weapon for them designed to do just that. And this guy is like, it will kill pirates, but it'll also kill a bunch of civilians. That's called collateral damage. If people don't evacuate, they deserve what's coming. Man, you guys, if this isn't in other countries, I'm not really sure how much of a thing this is, because I don't know what the MO is for dealing with this sort of situation abroad. But in the United States, this is very much an attitude that you can like come across with some people when we are dealing with stuff like tornadoes or hurricanes in our country. There is just this sort of attitude that, like, well, they were given fair warning. We know when one of those is headed in our direction. So if people choose to stay and risk their lives, that's their choice. And they're given all kinds of like, word ahead to get out. If they wind up dead or their home destroyed or something, what do they expect? And obviously, that's not exactly the same scenario as what we've got going on here. but it is one of those things that I definitely also used to say before I really understood the reality of the way many people in our country live. If you are a paycheck to paycheck human being, as at this point most of us are, you don't have the extra income to like buy a plane ticket out. You may not own a car, so you can't drive away. And you're going to what? Take a bus along with how many other people? Do you think that they're all going to be running normally? That things are going to be available the way that they usually are? Probably not. And not like all that, then to go where? If you don't have family that you can go and stay with, well, fuck you, I guess. And if you have like no money for a hotel, where are you meant to go? What are you supposed to do? And a lot of the people who can so blithely say, well, what did they expect? They just don't think about folks who have like no income, no vehicle, no family support network. Even if you do have family, if there is this major disaster coming your way, it's possible they're putting up six cousins of yours already. You can't fit two. Like how much are they meant to put up with? And so this is the kind of thing that he just reminded me of with what he was saying, even though I know that's not exactly what we're dealing with here. And even though he is a supervillain and this is meant to be like a very extreme case, I still couldn't help but be like, that's not that far off from the way a lot of folks talk. Honestly, in the year of our Lord 2024, more and more of the normal talking points of Americans sounds like supervillain shit. It's that close, it's really a shame. So anyway, this dude, as is his wont, decides, well, you think I'm cruel, but so are you. You're using the prisoners as their guinea pig, as your guinea pigs. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Um Fleet Admiral Sengoku may be soft, but Admiral Akainu, on the other hand, I bet he would love one of my weapons. Now, scram! I don't need you interrupting my work. Vegapunk's just jealous, and I can't blame him. I am a genius. Besides, his silly human enlargement experiment is nothing but a failure. You'd need to be a real magician to make the human body grow that much in such a short time. I tried to tell him what to do. What he needs is children, those who are growing, and fill them with drugs. That's the only way. So there we get our info on what is being done to the children. I mean, we already knew that some shit was up, but still. So yeah, he starts with his like adding the chemicals together, and somebody is like trying to pull him out. He's in one of those, I don't know what these are called, but one of those tanks that has the holes with the gloves that you can stick your hands in and manipulate something that is still completely sealed away from the air that you're breathing. So yeah, he gets yanked away, and Vegapunk is there telling him, I can't cover for you anymore, man. You've gone too fucking far. You've been pulled from the science division. And he fucking yanks open this like spot with this red button and smashes his hand, he being Caesar. So he is the one who releases this gas on purpose. It turns out it wasn't even like accidental. It wasn't even because like I had I knew Caesar would be behind the gas, but I assumed it was going to be that he took it too far from his own ambition, and that there was a terrible accident and he decided to sort of retroactively use this to his advantage as best he could. But the idea that he purposely released the gas in that moment just because he was pissed at getting fired is hilarious and idiotic. Sir, you are a disaster. All right. So let's I'm just realizing now, oh my god, you guys, I have so much left to talk about. Well, I talked about a fair amount already. Um, the dragon, uh, Momonosuke, I think is the way that you say. I'm sorry, but I'm going to call him the dragon because I'm not confident I'm pronouncing that right. And I also don't think I'm going to be able to remember it unless he is around a lot longer, which he may be. But as of right now, I'm just going to call him like the little dragon or samurai's son. Um, but yeah, I really feel like his whole appearance is very, it's too earthworm like. I don't like it. And his personality is lacking. It just all of his situation. I want to care more about him than I do. And if I hadn't met his father first, I don't know how much I would give a shit, to be honest. Um, but apparently he had been like a stowaway. And he gets brought here and he tries to distance himself from the other children, but they were so kind and quite insistent. And so we get to see the way that he was like just straight up rude to them, and how they were all told that they were sick, and Caesar pretends to have lost his own son, yada yada. And eventually, he wanders off and he goes into this room and he finds a devil fruit and eats it. I had been so certain, y'all, that this was a result of a like experiment of some kind that turned him purposely into a dragon. But that is not it at all. So it turns out like he's really hungry, but he doesn't want to eat what they're being given. So that's part of, he sees this fruit and he breaks the tank that it's being kept in and goes and eats it. And he's just like as stubborn as his dad. So he was unwilling to participate in a lot of the shit the other kids were. Um so this is the one where the little girl like spots him and is like, "Hey, you, do you remember me?" He finishes eating this fruit and he turns around, and they have a little bit of a chat where he's saying like, "I'm going to escape this place." Um and she says, "Come back, they have something to eat, and I'm sure if you go, you'll feel much better in no time." And then a couple of guards pass by, clearly sort of looking for the two of them. And she's like, "Come on, quick, before they find us." And she grabs him by the hand. And the way that this all is done is that he is in like shadow in this way that I'm not totally sure what I'm supposed to make of it. But he collapses and is like, she's saying, "Come on, dude, they're coming in, they're gonna catch you here, let's go." And he's like, "Don't waste your time on me, I'm gonna be fine." And this is when the devil fruit begins to do its work on him. There's this like yellow light that springs up around him, and then he turns into a dragon. And evidently, bless him, doesn't realize that it's probably within his power to change back into a person. So when Luffy says, like, you could just use your power to turn back, he's like, "Wait, what? Can you show me how to do that?" And Luffy is like, I don't have Zoan powers. I'm sorry. So no, I'm not, I can't teach you that. I'm sorry about it. Um, and then he mentions how he stumbled across Caesar talking about how the children weren't going to do anything useful with their lives, that they're foolish idiots, and that he's making some use of them with his experiments, and so he's doing a favor for the world. The kids are nobly sacrificing their lives for the greater good, even if it's mandatory and they don't realize that's what they're doing. You know, all of the stuff where it's uh, just him demonstrating his contempt for his test subjects. Uh, and when we come back, um, sorry, I'm trying to find the spot here. So he begins to sort of freak out, and I'm not really sure what happens here. Luffy says that he's going to help him, and the dragon collapses. Luffy's calling him Momo, so maybe I'll just do that. It's weird because I associate that name with the like lemur guy from Avatar: The Last Airbender, but nevertheless, he collapses and then he's like comes awake again and he begins to glow, and this sort of smoke appears around him that he can walk on. So it's not, he doesn't exactly fly, like it's just a walking on the clouds, but it is the equivalent of flying, really. And I am not sure if this was like a result of his, did he eat some of that drug and is he going through withdrawals? I feel like the whole thing was that he refused to eat anything. Is it possible that he's just supposed to be having an over the top reaction to Luffy being like honorable and generous, or what? Um Brooke is in his like spirit form. He is helping to look for this little boy, and it is so funny that this voice actor, every time, you guys, he is so good. He's like in the urinals and stuff just saying little samurai boy. So we go back to Smoker here, still in the midst of this fucking fight with Virgo. Law is not moving a muscle, just watching this. And and Virgo says, "Is this some kind of like pathetic attempt to avenge the death of those scumbags?" Because from the way he spoke, Choker, oh my God, Smoker understandably put it together that these guys had been attacked and might be dead. I don't think they're actually dead, but yeah, he says those boys could take a punch. I wouldn't write them off just yet. And then continues with his smoke attack, multiple fists and whatnot coming out of the smoke. It's very fun. Eventually, we have the like blow that should be, if this were somebody else that we were dealing with, like a killing blow. It's not. He lands it, and Virgo does indeed go flying across the room, but it's not really like doing anything. He just stands up and seems unmoved by it. Um, so I'm trying to like kind of push through some things here because I'm over time, well, almost over time already. Um, so let's see. We'll deal with first fucking Mocha making the snowstorm in the biscuit room, and Nami has grabbed up Chopper and she's trying to hustle it out of here. And Robin is standing still and she's sort of thinking like perhaps I can slow them down, and she starts to use her power, but from behind her comes Monet with these like swords, I guess, on her legs. It's like she's I'm trying to see what they are because they're spikes that she's holding in each claw that have a big base to them. And I don't know if these are weapons built specifically for her to use with these claws. I couldn't figure out what objects these were supposed to be, but she drives it right through Robin's shoulder, and she doesn't kill her, but she hurts her pretty badly. Um, and the episode ends with her going once more in with a dive to try and finish Robin and Nami off, because Nami turns around and tries to help Robin, and Zoro interrupts. And she calls him Pirate Hunter Zoro, which I had forgotten that was even like the name he went by. And it's so weird because he's an actual pirate now and not a pirate hunter at all. So you'd really think that name would have slid off and something else would have taken his place by now. But no, we're just going to keep going with this very inappropriate title. So, Mocha, we have the flashbacks with her and what it was like for her to first come to the island. I am just going to reiterate how much I hate Mocha's crying. It was absolutely excruciating. I couldn't take it. I had to like kind of tune out for a bit of her thing until that stopped because it was so grating. Um Anyway, so yeah, we get to see the alleged kindness of I love the way that fucking Caesar Clown is like, my name is Caesar Clown, but you can call me the master. And I was like, that is not better. What? And we also see Monet, and she still has like her regular human form here. I don't know how they explain what the fuck happens to her. And Mocha, for her part, is just realizing like how much they've been lied to, and the fact that this candy was supposed to be like a reward, and now she's seeing how they've been played and lied to. We jump back to Monet fighting Zorro, still in the snow. And there's a point where Zorro is coming straight for Nami. And you guys, this is so funny to me because he turns around and he is looking for Monet. He sees Nami and Robin running away, and he chases them, I'm assuming, because he thinks in the snow that that's actually Monet. Nami picks up Chopper and holds him out in front of her as a shield, which is the rudest thing I've ever heard. And then just as he is about to connect, it looks like, and chop up Nami, it turns out he is coming in to try and defend her again and blocking against an attack from Monet. And Monet seems to be like, oh, you know what? I really thought that I would be able to pick off the weak ones first, and that would be the winning strategy. I love how Nami is just so indignant about being called one of the weak ones. But she finally is like, you just keep on defending yourself and you're not actually attacking me. Like, am I able to beat you? Is that what's happening? In the midst of this is when Nami does her heat egg and like creates a hole in one of Monet's wings, and she's running off saying over her like shoulder, there's more where that came from. I think she calls her bird brain, which I do actually quite like. So Monet does snow fence to close up the doorway and then grabs up Nami by the ankle. Robin, by the way, she had been pierced through the shoulder. There's no blood. There's no nothing indicating that she's even injured anymore. She looks perfectly fine. So I don't know what's up with that. But everybody who has been caught up in this snow winds up being frozen in place and unable to move. And then all of a sudden the camera pulls back and you see Monet in this like bonkers cloud form, not snow obviously form, but like what she's looking like to me here is one of the angels from Doctor Who when they actually lift their face out of their hands. She looks so scary here. And I loved this form. And the like eventually when the Marines come in, she like sinks her teeth into one of their shoulders and begins to freeze them from the inside. I thought this was one of the coolest attacks of this show. I just like the women are so infrequently really scary looking. And the transformation into this like snow demon sort of, I just thought this was really, really cool. I like this a lot. I don't want to lose her. I know that she's just sort of a sidekick, so we won't probably see her after this arc, but I just think that's a real shame because I like her a lot. Um, so all right, I'm having to jump around here again. Uh, so Luffy is hanging on to our little guy who's using these orange clouds. He's like climbing up them to get out of this what's the word I want? It's like they're down a chute kind of. But all of a sudden he stops and it seems like he's run out of gas because he's hungry, I think is what is supposed to be happening even though he's saying he is not hungry. So they're sort of hovering in midair for a second. And he's got one finger in one of the orange clouds and then lets go. And they just go plummeting back down again. And I was really puzzled. I was like, I thought we were making some progress here. What is even going on? Meanwhile, in the rest of the lab, that purple gas is really coming in. And Monet is determined to fucking get the children back. We have Sanji showing up with all of the Marines and he tells them to all make like stupid faces at Zoro. But Zoro points out where Nami and Robin are. Sanji is like, oh, sweet, great, thanks, I appreciate it. And then he spots Monet. And that is the end of that. He immediately begins to get a nosebleed. We have a hottie right here. Why do I need to go anywhere? Um, and Yeah, the one of the Marines does call her a harpy, which is what I had said before, and I expected that to like be her name, but apparently not. They're all talking about how she's the sexiest bird they've ever seen, and one of them says, "Yeah, I could be into that." And she blushes and turns away. She does not seem at all upset. And Zorro says, "Call me crazy, but I think you're actually enjoying this," which was truly funny. I don't know why, but the idea of her being flattered by them never occurred to me. It was just very unexpected, and I did find it genuinely funny. Um so yeah, this is when she begins to do her like real crazy tooth attack, which is awesome. And they're blowing like holes in the side of her head and they just reform and stuff. She looks crazy. It is so awesome. I love this thing so much. Uh and then she eventually like kind of gets got and she stops and is like, "Wait, what the fuck? Somebody's using hockey on me," because there's some blood that comes down. And all of the guys start cheering because apparently it's Tashigi. I didn't know that she worked with hockey, but I guess so. Unless it was supposed to be Zoro that did that, but I really feel like it was her. I don't know why Zoro, if he can use hockey, he hadn't up until this point. But it seems like we're entering a zone where like that's kind of the only thing that's going to work on anybody. Um So yeah, the episode ends with Zoro being like, "So what do you plan to do?" Because they're still stuck in this room, and Tashigi gets her sword ready and is just like, I'm going to cut this bitch up and really ruin her day. That's what I'm going to do." And she tells him, "I could use a little help." And that's the end. So I'm over time, but these were fun. I enjoyed these. Thank you again so much to Florian for commissioning this one. Appreciate you a lot. Thank you to everybody who is listening. I hope you're enjoying the coverage. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.